I'm Audrey, 29, and this was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My perfect wedding to Nathan was meticulously planned down to the last peony. But as I stood there in my white lace gown, my mother-in-law Barbara stormed in, face contorted with rage, pointing her finger and screaming that I had stolen her precious pearl necklace. My face burned with humiliation as 200 guests watched in shock. What happened next? Nobody expected my reaction, not even me. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want more stories about standing up for yourself against impossible odds. I grew up in a small Pennsylvania town called Riverdale, where everyone knew everyone. My parents worked hard to provide a comfortable middle-class life for me and my sister Jessica. Dad was a high school math teacher and Mom ran a small bakery downtown. We weren't wealthy by any means, but we never wanted for anything important. I met Nathan during my junior year at Penn State. We were paired as lab partners in organic chemistry, and I immediately noticed his kind eyes and the way he patiently explained concepts I struggled with. Unlike the other guys who tried to impress me with grand gestures, Nathan won me over with small, thoughtful acts, bringing me coffee during late study sessions, remembering my favorite snacks, and always listening intently when I spoke about my dreams of becoming an architect. Our romance developed slowly and naturally. By senior year, we were inseparable. After graduation, Nathan pursued his MBA while I started at a small architecture firm in Philadelphia. We supported each other through long hours and stressful deadlines, building a foundation of trust and partnership. When Nathan suggested I meet his family after dating for a year, I was nervous but excited. His father had passed away when he was 15, leaving him and his mother Barbara alone. He spoke of her with such reverence, how she had sacrificed everything to give him opportunities, working 2 jobs to put him through college. The first meeting seemed to go well. Barbara lived in an elegant colonial home in the suburbs of Boston, filled with antiques and family photos. She served tea in delicate china cups and asked polite questions about my background and career aspirations. But looking back, I can see the subtle red flags I missed. The slight narrowing of her eyes when I mentioned my modest upbringing. The way she interrupted me repeatedly. Her constant references to the Windsor family legacy and how special her son was. Barbara had an almost obsessive attachment to family heirlooms and symbols of wealth. The china we used belonged to her great-grandmother. The silver tea service was a wedding gift from her in-laws. Each item came with a detailed history lesson and implicit message. These treasures represented a legacy I wasn't part of. Nathan was her only child, and after losing her husband, she had poured all her emotional energy into him. He was attentive to her needs, calling her daily and visiting monthly. At first, I admired their close bond, but slowly realized there was something unhealthy in the way she seemed to view him as both son and surrogate spouse. When Barbara made passive-aggressive comments about my clothes or career choices, Nathan would gently defend me. Mum Audrey's firm is actually very prestigious in the architectural world. Or, that colour looks beautiful on Audrey, don't you think? I appreciated his support, but noticed how carefully he phrased his defences, always afraid of truly upsetting her. After 3 wonderful years together during a sunset walk on the beach in Cape Cod, Nathan got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. The ring was perfect. A vintage-style setting with a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. I was ecstatic, tears streaming down my face as I said yes. We spent the evening calling our loved ones to share the news. Barbara's reaction was telling. A sapphire that's different. I always imagined my daughter-in-law would wear my mother's diamond ring. Nathan explained he'd chosen the sapphire because it matched my eyes, but Barbara's disapproval cast a shadow on our happiness. Nevertheless, we dove into wedding planning with enthusiasm. My parents were thrilled, offering to contribute what they could to the wedding budget. My sister Jessica, who would be my maid of honor, created detailed spreadsheets and Pinterest boards. We decided on a spring wedding at a restored barn venue with string lights and wildflowers. Romantic but not overly formal. As the eldest daughter, I'd always been close to my parents. Mum and I spoke nearly every day, sharing everything from recipe disasters to work triumphs. Dad was my rock, the quiet, steady presence who taught me to value integrity over appearances. Jessica, 2 years younger and working as a nurse, was my best friend and fiercest advocate. When we sat down with both families to discuss the wedding budget, the first major tension emerged. Barbara insisted on inviting over 50 family friends and business associates I'd never met. When I gently suggested keeping the guest list more intimate due to budget constraints, she offered to help financially, but with conditions. changing the venue to a country club her family belonged to, hiring her friend as the caterer, and essentially taking over all major decisions. Nathan and I decided to scale back our plans rather than accept her controlling financial help. We thanked her, but explained we wanted a wedding that reflected our personal style. She smiled tightly and said she understood, but her disapproval was palpable. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a wedding planning journey that would test the very foundation of my relationship. As wedding planning progressed, Barbara's interference escalated from subtle comments to outright demands. When we chose the rustic barn venue with its soaring wooden beams and meadow views, Barbara turned up her nose. Wouldn't the Windsor name be better represented at the Boston Heritage Club? They have real crystal chandeliers, not those mason jar lights. The guest list became a weekly battle. Barbara would email new names directly to our wedding planner without consulting us. The Andersons have known Nathan since he was in diapers, she'd insist when I questioned yet another addition. And the Blakes are practically family. Mr. Blake gave Nathan his first internship. Nathan tried to mediate these conflicts with diplomatic skill. "Mom, we appreciate your input, but Audrey and I have a specific vision and budget," he would explain patiently. "How about we include the Andersons, but save the Blakes for a post-wedding dinner we can host later?" I found myself compromising more than I wanted to keep the peace. We added 10 of Barbara's must-have guests. We upgraded the dinner wine to the brand her social circle preferred. We changed our modern wedding cake design to a more traditional tiered style that Barbara deemed appropriate for a Windsor wedding. The wedding dress shopping expedition became a pivotal moment in my deteriorating relationship with Barbara. I had planned to go with my mother's sister and 2 bridesmaids. When Barbara heard about the appointment, she insisted on joining. "I've been to more bridal salons than all of you combined," she declared. "I know quality when I see it." At the upscale boutique, my mother quietly suggested dresses that matched my romantic, slightly bohemian taste. Barbara loudly directed the consultant toward heavily beaded formal gowns that made me feel like I was wearing a costume. When I emerged in a simple silk sheath with delicate lace overlay that made my mother tear up, Barbara frowned. "That does nothing for your figure, dear," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "And it's rather plain for the mother of a Windsor groom, don't you think?" I caught Jessica's eye in the mirror, noting her clenched jaw. She had never liked Barbara and was finding it increasingly difficult to hide her feelings. That day I chose the dress I loved, despite Barbara's disapproval, a small victory that felt significant. 2 months before the wedding, during a planning lunch that Nathan couldn't attend, Barbara brought up the subject of jewelry. "As you know, the Windsor women have always worn family pieces on their wedding day." She began opening an ornate jewelry box. Inside lay a stunning pearl necklace with a sapphire and diamond pendant. "This has been worn by Windsor brides for 4 generations, Barbara explained, her voice reverent. "My grandmother wore it, I wore it, and now you'll wear it." The necklace was undeniably beautiful, but something in her tone, the assumption rather than the offering, made me hesitate. Plus, I had already planned to wear my grandmother's pearl earrings, my something old, that held deep sentimental value. "It's beautiful, Barbara," I said carefully, "but I've actually planned to wear my grandmother's earrings, and I think the necklace might overwhelm them." Her face hardened instantly. "I see. I thought you'd understand the importance of family traditions by now. This necklace represents the Windsor legacy you're marrying into." "I do respect your traditions," I assured her. "Perhaps I could incorporate another Windsor heirloom, maybe a bracelet." But the damage was done. Barbara snapped the jewelry box shut and tucked it into her purse. "The necklace is the tradition, but if you prefer your family's items, so be it." The bridal shower, a week later, became a showcase for Barbara's passive-aggressive talents. She gave me a crystal picture frame with a photo of Nathan as a child, with her, not with me. She made pointed comments about modern brides who don't understand family values. When my college roommate asked about honeymoon plans, Barbara interrupted to say she'd offered her Cape Cod summer house, but we'd chosen Hawaii instead, though it's so commercial. Nathan's extended family clearly took their social cues from Barbara. His aunts were coolly polite, his cousins barely engaged with me. Only his younger cousin Tyler seemed immune to Barbara's influence, warmly congratulating us and offering to help with music for the reception. As the wedding approached, my anxiety grew. Would Barbara find ways to undermine our ceremony too? Would she make our special day about her feelings rather than our commitment? Nathan assured me everything would be fine. "Once we're actually married, she'll accept you completely," he promised. "She just struggles with change." The final dress fitting became another battlefield. Barbara attended uninvited, claiming she happened to be shopping nearby. As I stood on the pedestal in my finished gown, feeling like a bride at last, Barbara circled me critically. "You've gained weight since the last fitting," she observed, though the seamstress assured her no adjustments were needed. "And are you sure about that neckline? It's rather revealing for a family wedding." The night before our wedding, we held the rehearsal dinner at an Italian restaurant Nathan and I loved. Barbara had pushed for the country club again, but reluctantly accepted our choice after Nathan firmly insisted. Throughout the evening, she made comments just quiet enough that only those nearby could hear. "The Windsor rehearsal dinners are usually more formal affairs," she told my mother. "But this is quaint." That night, in our separate hotel rooms before the wedding, Nathan called me. "I'm sorry about my mum," he said softly. "I know she can be difficult, but tomorrow is about us, not her. I can't wait to make you my wife." His words reassured me, but as I tried to sleep, Barbara's behavior throughout our engagement replayed in my mind. What would she do next? Little did I know her worst was yet to come, targeted for the moment that should have been our most perfect. The morning of our wedding dawned with picture-perfect spring sunshine. Our venue, the restored lakeside barn, looked magical with wildflowers lining the path to the ceremony space and string lights twinkling from the rafters. The large windows overlooked the lake, which sparkled in the morning light. Rustic wooden sign with elegant calligraphy directed guests to the ceremony cocktail hour and reception spaces. I arrived early with my bridesmaids settling into the bridal suite, a charming renovated farmhouse adjacent to the main barn. My mother had arranged breakfast pastries and champagne, and the room buzzed with excited chatter as my 4 bridesmaids unpacked their sage green dresses and the hairstylist set up her tools. "This is really happening," Jessica said, hugging me tight as we looked out the window at the venue being prepared. "You're getting married today." I felt a bubble of pure joy rise in my chest. Despite all the planning stress and Barbara's interference, this was still our day, mine and Nathan's. The hair and makeup artists arrived, turning our getting ready space into a cheerful production line. My mother watched with tears in her eyes as my long brown hair was transformed into a soft romantic updo with small white flowers woven throughout. "You look just like your grandmother on her wedding day," Mum said, showing me an old photo she'd brought along. She'd be so proud. The bridesmaids popped champagne, making a toast to the most beautiful bride and the luckiest groom. We took silly photos in our matching robes, the photographer capturing our laughter and excitement. For those few hours, all the tension of the past months melted away. Jessica, ever the organised maid of honour, kept us on schedule while maintaining the festive mood. "Makeup check, we need the mother of the bride next," she'd call out, then whisper jokes to me when she saw my nervousness creeping in. Around noon, my father arrived to see me before the ceremony. When he stepped into the bridal suite and saw me in my dress for the first time, he stopped short, his eyes welling up. "Audrey," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "you are the most beautiful bride I've ever seen." We shared a quiet moment together, the steady, kind man who had taught me what to look for in a partner. "Your mother and I are so proud of the woman you've become," he told me. "And Nathan is a good man. You two will build a wonderful life together." I gave my bridesmaids their gifts, delicate silver bracelets with their birthstones, and they presented me with a photo album they'd secretly created, filled with pictures and messages from friends who couldn't attend the wedding. The thoughtfulness of the gift made me tear up, and the makeup artist rushed over with tissues, careful not to let my mascara run. The moment of putting on my wedding dress felt ceremonial. My mother and Jessica helped me step into it, carefully pulling it up and fastening the buttons that ran down the back. The simple silk gown with its lace overlay felt exactly right. Elegant, but not pretentious, romantic, but not overdone. When I stepped into my grandmother's pearl earrings, I felt her presence with me. The photographer captured these moments. The final adjustments to my veil, my mother's careful placement of my something blue garter, Jessica blotting away a happy tear. Through the window, I could see guests beginning to arrive, being escorted to their seats by the ushers. Then came the first ripple of trouble. Nathan texted me, "Mum's upset about something. Dad's cousin is talking to her. Don't worry, we'll handle it." I tried to put it out of my mind. Barbara was always upset about something, and today of all days, I wouldn't let her affect me. But then my phone began ringing repeatedly, Barbara's name flashing on the screen. Jessica intercepted the calls. "You don't need this right now," she said, firmly silencing my phone. "Whatever drama she's creating can wait until after you're married." But the calls continued now to my mother's phone, which she reluctantly answered. I watched her face change as she listened, her expression shifting from confusion to concern. "Barbara says her pearl necklace is missing from her hotel room. my mother reported after hanging up. She's quite upset. She's asking if anyone here has seen it. The pearl necklace. The Windsor family heirloom I had declined to wear. My stomach tightened. Of course not. Why would any of us have her necklace? That's what I told her, my mother assured me. I'm sure it will turn up. But the calls persisted. The wedding coordinator came in looking flustered. Mrs. Windsor is insisting on speaking with Audrey about a missing necklace. I told her this isn't the appropriate time, but she's quite adamant. The joyful morning atmosphere had evaporated, replaced by a tense undercurrent. I checked the time, only 30 minutes until the ceremony. Please tell her I don't know anything about her necklace, and we can discuss it after the ceremony. I instructed the coordinator, trying to keep my voice steady. My father returned, ready to walk me down the aisle. Don't worry about Barbara, he said, reading my expression. This is your day. Focus on Nathan and your commitment to each other. Jessica helped adjust my veil one final time. Ready to get married? She asked with an encouraging smile. I took a deep breath, pushing thoughts of Barbara aside. More than ready. My bridesmaids lined up in the hallway, bouquets in hand. The coordinator gave last-minute instructions about the procession timing. Through the open window, I could hear the string quartet beginning the prelude music. My father offered his arm, and with a final glance in the mirror, I prepared to walk toward my future with Nathan. As we approached the ceremony space, I could see the guests seated on white chairs decorated with small bouquets of wildflowers. The wooden arch where Nathan and I would exchange vows was draped with greenery and white roses, and there at the front stood Nathan handsome in his navy suit, looking toward the back entrance with anticipation. What I didn't see was Barbara in the front row where the mother of the groom should be sitting. That empty seat should have been my first warning of what was about to unfold. The wedding coordinator gave us the signal to begin. My bridesmaids processed one by one the string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon. Jessica, as maid of honor, gave me a final wink before taking her place at the front. Then the music changed to the traditional wedding march and all the guests rose to their feet. My father squeezed my arm reassuringly as we began our walk down the aisle. The afternoon sun streamed through the barn's high windows, casting a golden glow over everything. White rose petals lined our path. The faces of our friends and family were warm with happiness as they watched us pass. My eyes locked with Nathan's. His smile was radiant, his eyes shining with tears. In that moment, all my anxieties faded away. This was what mattered. Our love, our commitment, our future together. Only 20 more steps and I would reach him, take his hands, begin our life as husband and wife. The officiant, a family friend, who had known me since childhood, stepped forward with a welcoming smile. Dearly beloved, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the barn. And that's when I heard it. The unmistakable sound of the heavy barn doors being thrown open at the back of the room. A collective gasp rippled through the guests. Nathan's smile faltered, his eyes widening as he looked past me. I turned to see Barbara standing in the doorway, her face contorted with fury. Her normally perfectly coiffed hair was disheveled, her expensive blue mother-of-the-groom dress wrinkled. But most alarming was her expression, a mixture of rage and triumph that sent a chill through me. "Stop this ceremony right now," she shouted, her voice echoing in the sudden silence. For a moment no one moved. The string quartet faltered, then stopped playing. 200 pairs of eyes darted between Barbara and me, confusion and shock evident on every face. Barbara strode down the aisle, her heels clicking aggressively on the wooden floor. "I cannot allow this wedding to continue under false pretenses," she announced loudly as though addressing a courtroom. "Not when the bride has shown her true colors." My father stepped slightly in front of me, protective. "Barbara, what are you doing?" he asked, his voice low but firm. She ignored him, pointing an accusatory finger directly at me. My mother's pearl necklace, a Windsor family heirloom worth thousands, has disappeared from my hotel room, and I know exactly who took it. The blood drained from my face as I realized what was happening. "Barbara, I don't have your necklace," I said, my voice sounding strange and distant to my own ears. "Don't lie to me," she shouted, moving closer. "You've been jealous of the Windsor family treasures from the beginning. You refused to wear it in the ceremony, and now it's conveniently missing. Where is it, Audrey? Did you sell it already to pay for this barn wedding?" The accusation hung in the air, so outrageous I could barely process it. My face burned with humiliation as I became acutely aware of every guest witnessing this spectacle. Some looked away in embarrassment, others leaned forward in morbid fascination. "I would never take anything that belongs to you," I managed to say, though my voice trembled. I have no idea where your necklace is. Nathan finally broke from his frozen state at the altar and rushed down the aisle toward us. Mum, stop this right now, he demanded, placing himself between Barbara and me. You're ruining our wedding day over a misplaced necklace. Misplaced? Barbara scoffed. That necklace has been in our family for generations. It's insured for $25,000. This isn't about being misplaced. It's about theft. She turned to address the stunned guests directly. I welcomed Audrey into our family despite her modest background. I overlooked her lack of social connections. I even accepted that she didn't appreciate the significance of Windsor family traditions. But I will not stand by while she steals from us. The whispers began, then rippling through the crowd. I caught fragments. How awful. Poor Nathan. Could she really have... My father stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. You need to leave Barbara, now, before you say something you'll truly regret. Oh, I regret plenty, Barbara shot back. I regret that my son was too blinded by whatever attraction he has to this girl, to see her for what she is, a gold digger from a nobody family who saw the Windsor name as her ticket up in the world. Our wedding planner approached cautiously. Mrs. Windsor, please, let's discuss this privately and allow the ceremony to... I'm not going anywhere, Barbara interrupted, not until she admits what she did. In fact, I've already called the police. They should be arriving any minute to investigate the theft. Nathan paled. You called the police. To our wedding, Mum, have you lost your mind? Barbara reached out suddenly, grabbing my arm with surprising strength. Where is it? She demanded, her face inches from mine. Tell me now, or I swear I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are. The guests' murmurs grew louder. Some were standing now uncertain whether to intervene or leave. The perfect wedding we had planned was disintegrating into a humiliating spectacle. I felt tears threatening, but something else was rising within me too. A clarity and resolve I hadn't expected. This moment, I realized, would define not just my wedding day, but my entire marriage and relationship with Barbara. If I crumbled now, she would control our lives forever. The thought crystallized in my mind with surprising sharpness. I would not let that happen. In that moment of crystal clarity, standing in my wedding dress, with 200 pairs of eyes on me, and Barbara's accusations hanging in the air, I made a decision. I would not be the hysterical defensive bride. I would not allow Barbara's theatrical accusations to define this day. I gently but firmly removed Barbara's hand from my arm. Then, in a voice much calmer than I felt, I addressed her directly. Barbara, I said evenly. I understand you're upset about your missing necklace. It's clearly very valuable to you both financially and sentimentally. I did not take it, but I want to help you find it. My unexpectedly composed response seemed to catch her off guard. She had clearly anticipated tears or angry denials. We have two options, I continued loud enough for everyone to hear. We can pause our wedding ceremony while you and I search for your necklace together, or we can proceed with the ceremony while you check your belongings again. The necklace may have been misplaced in your luggage or left in your hotel safe. Barbara's eyes narrowed. If you didn't take it, then why were you so quick to refuse wearing it? A real Windsor bride would have been honoured to wear a family heirloom. I declined because I chose to wear my grandmother's earrings as my something old. I explained calmly. It was never about rejecting your family traditions, but about honouring mine as well. Nathan finally found his voice. He moved to stand beside me, taking my hand firmly in his. Mom, this has gone far enough. Audrey did not take your necklace. You're making a scene based on absolutely no evidence. No evidence. Barbara's voice rose again. The necklace was in my hotel room last night. This morning it's gone. She's the only one with a motive. What possible motive would I have? I asked. To sell it, I have a successful career. To wear it, I just told everyone I chose not to wear it. To hurt you, that would only hurt Nathan, whom I love more than anything. Barbara's certainty seemed to waver slightly, but she quickly recovered. Perhaps you took it out of spite, because I've seen through your facade from the beginning. I took a deep breath, then made an unexpected offer. If you're so certain, I'm willing to empty my belongings right here, right now, in front of everyone. A murmur ran through the crowd. Barbara looked startled. Jessica, I called to my maid of honour. Would you please bring my purse and overnight bag from the bridal suite? Jessica, looking both concerned and proud, nodded and hurried off. Audrey, you don't have to do this, Nathan said quietly, but loud enough for those nearby to hear. This is ridiculous. "I know I don't have to," I replied, "but I want to. I have nothing to hide and I won't start our marriage under a cloud of suspicion." Barbara's confidence visibly faltered. This doesn't prove anything. You could have hidden it somewhere else." Nathan turned to his mother, his expression hardening. "Mom, listen to yourself. Do you honestly believe Audrey snuck into your hotel room, stole your necklace, hid it somewhere, and then returned here to get married, knowing you'd notice it missing?" Barbara's eyes darted around, noting the increasingly disapproving looks from the guests. She attempted to salvage her position with tears. "Nathan, darling, I'm only trying to protect our family legacy. You know how important that necklace is to me. Your father gave it to me on our wedding day." Jessica returned with my belongings, placing them on a nearby table. Without hesitation, I opened my purse and emptied its contents for all to see: lipstick tissues, my phone wallet. Then I unzipped my overnight bag, displaying the neatly packed toiletries and change of clothes for after the reception. "As you can see," I said to the assembled guests, as much as to Barbara, "there's no pearl necklace here." Barbara's face had lost its triumphant expression, replaced by uncertainty. She must have realized how this looked. Her publicly accusing her son's bride of theft, with no evidence disrupting a wedding ceremony, for what was increasingly appearing to be a baseless accusation. Nathan stepped forward, his voice firm but controlled. "Mom, you have two choices now. You can apologize to Audrey and take your seat so we can continue our ceremony, or you can leave. But this ends now." Barbara's mouth opened and closed wordlessly. She clearly hadn't anticipated this turn of events. Her son standing firmly with me, the guests' sympathy shifting decidedly in my favor, her accusation proven empty in front of everyone. "I will not apologize for trying to protect what belongs to our family," she finally managed, though her voice had lost its previous conviction. "Then I think it's best if you leave," Nathan said quietly. "Dad would be ashamed of your behavior today." That reference to his father struck home. Barbara flinched as if physically struck. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Fine," she said, gathering what dignity she could muster. "But this isn't over. When the necklace doesn't turn up, you'll know I was right." She turned to the assembled guests. "The Windsor family has hosted society events for generations. Remember this moment when you receive your next invitation." With that final attempt at social intimidation, Barbara turned and stalked back up the aisle, her exit as dramatic as her entrance had been. The heavy barn doors closed behind her with a resounding thud, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. For a long moment, no one moved or spoke. The perfect ceremony we had planned lay in shambles around us. Then, gathering every ounce of poise I possessed, I turned to our guests. "Well," I said with a small smile, "I've heard most weddings have at least one unexpected moment." A ripple of nervous laughter broke the tension. "Nathan and I would like to thank you all for your patience. If you're still willing, we'd love to proceed with our ceremony." A spontaneous round of applause broke out. Nathan squeezed my hand, his eyes filled with love and admiration. "Have I told you today how amazing you are?" he whispered. The officiant stepped forward, clearing his throat. "It seems we've had our for better or for worse moment before the vows were even exchanged," he said, earning another appreciative laugh from the guests. "Shall we begin again?" My father, who had remained protectively at my side throughout the confrontation, kissed my cheek before returning to his position to walk me down the aisle. Nathan returned to the altar and the string quartet resumed playing. As I proceeded down the aisle for the second time, the atmosphere had transformed. Instead of merely witnessing a wedding, our guests were now actively supporting our union against adversity. Each smile, each nod I received communicated solidarity. By the time I reached Nathan and we joined hands, the ugly scene with Barbara had somehow strengthened rather than diminished the significance of our vows. For better or for worse, took on new meaning as we pledged our lives to each other. When Nathan said "I do," his voice rang with a conviction that told me he had made his choice, me us our future together, with absolute clarity. And when we were pronounced husband and wife, the kiss we shared felt like not just a sealing of our vows, but a declaration of our united front against whatever challenges might come. The transition from our ceremony to the reception wasn't quite the smooth flow we had planned. Guests gathered in small clusters, their cocktail conversation inevitably dominated by Barbara's dramatic scene. I could see them glancing our way, expressions a mixture of sympathy and curiosity. Nathan and I retreated briefly to the small antechamber off the main barn, while the venue staff rearranged the space for dinner. The moment we were alone, he pulled me into a tight embrace. "Audrey, I am so sorry," he whispered against my hair. I never imagined she would go this far. Are you okay? I leaned back to look at him, surprised to find I genuinely was okay. Actually, yes. I'm not happy about what happened, but in a strange way, I'm glad it did. His eyebrows rose in confusion. Think about it, I explained. She showed everyone exactly who she is. There's no more pretending or second guessing. And you... I touched his face gently. You chose me, clearly and publicly. Nathan's eyes filled with emotion. I will always choose you. I should have set firmer boundaries with her long ago. I kept thinking she'd come around once she got to know you better, but that was naive. We'll figure out how to handle her together, I assured him. But right now we have a reception to attend, Mr. Windsor. He smiled, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. Indeed we do, Mrs. Windsor. As we entered the reception, our guests greeted us with warm applause. The band played our chosen first dance song, and as Nathan led me onto the floor, he whispered, "Just focus on me. This moment is ours." Dancing in his arms, I could almost forget the drama of earlier. Almost, but not quite. Because throughout the evening, various members of Nathan's family approached us with awkward apologies. His Aunt Margaret was the first. "Nathan, Audrey, I want you to know that not all Windsors behave like Barbara," she said quietly. "What she did today was unforgivable." "Thank you, Aunt Margaret," Nathan replied. "That means a lot to us." "There's something you should know," she added, glancing around to ensure Barbara hadn't somehow returned. "This isn't the first time Barbara has lost something valuable and accused someone else." Nathan's posture stiffened. "What do you mean?" "When your father was still alive, she once accused their housekeeper of stealing a diamond bracelet. The poor woman nearly lost her job. 2 weeks later, Barbara found the bracelet in her jewelry box, claiming it had been misplaced. There was no apology to the housekeeper. This revelation cast Barbara's accusation in an even more troubling light. Was this a pattern of behavior, creating drama by losing valuable items, then accusing others, before mysteriously recovering them? We didn't have long to ponder this question. Midway through dinner, Nathan's phone rang. He stepped away to answer it, returning moments later with a tense expression. "That was my cousin Tyler," he said, sitting beside me. "He's at the hotel with my mum. She found the necklace." "Let me guess," I said. "It was in her jewelry box all along." Nathan nodded grimly. "Apparently she put it in a special compartment for safekeeping and forgot she'd moved it from its usual spot. Tyler says she's embarrassed but not ready to apologize." I squeezed his hand. "I'm not surprised, but honestly, I don't need her apology. I just need us to be clear about how we'll handle her going forward." "I've been thinking about that," Nathan said firmly. "We need boundaries, strict ones. Limited contact until she can respect you and our marriage. No unsupervised time with any future children we might have, and absolutely no financial entanglements, no gifts with strings attached, no offers to help with major purchases." His clarity and decisiveness filled me with relief. Many of Nathan's extended family members continued to approach us throughout the evening, some offering support, others simply observing our reactions, perhaps gauging which side to take in the family drama. My father's toast captured the mood perfectly, without directly referencing the earlier drama. "Marriage," he said, raising his glass, "is not about perfect moments. It's about how you handle the imperfect ones together. Today I watched my daughter and her new husband face an unexpected challenge with grace, dignity, and unity. If that's any indication of how they'll approach life's obstacles, then I have no doubt their union will thrive through whatever comes their way." Despite the rocky start, the dance floor soon filled with joyful guests determined to celebrate with us. The band played upbeat classics that got everyone moving, from my elderly great-aunt to Nathan's young cousins. For hours we danced, laughed and celebrated, proving that even Barbara's dramatic scene couldn't diminish our joy. As the evening progressed, I found myself in conversation with Nathan's cousin Tyler, who had returned from the hotel. "I gave Barbara a piece of my mind," he confided. "Told her she'd embarrassed herself and the entire family. She's hiding in her room now, already rewriting history in her mind." "What's her version?" I asked, curious, despite myself. "Oh, she's telling herself she was just being vigilant about family heirlooms, that anyone would have been concerned. She's convinced herself the public accusation was justified because the necklace is so valuable." He shook his head in disgust. Classic Barbara. Never wrong, never sorry. As the reception wound down, Nathan and I shared a quiet moment at our table, watching our loved ones enjoy the last songs of the night. "You know what?" I said, leaning against his shoulder. "In a strange way, this might have been the perfect wedding day after all." He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. How do you figure that? We learned something crucial on day one of our marriage, that we're stronger together than any outside force trying to come between us. Most couples take years to discover that. Nathan's expression softened. When you put it that way, he leaned in to kiss me. Still, I promise our honeymoon will be drama-free. As the reception ended and we prepared to leave, guests lined up to send us off with well wishes. Nathan and I ran through a shower of flower petals to our waiting car, decorated with just married signs by the groomsmen. Once inside the vehicle, Nathan immediately loosened his tie with a sigh of relief. We did it. We're married. Despite your mother's best efforts, I added with a small smile. As we drove to our hotel, Nathan's phone buzzed repeatedly with text messages from Barbara. He glanced at them briefly, then turned his phone off completely. What did she say? I asked. Something about being misunderstood and hoping we can all put this unfortunate incident behind us. He slipped his phone into his pocket. But that can wait. Tonight is about us. Arriving at the hotel suite exhausted but happy, we finally had a moment to process everything that had happened. As Nathan hung up his suit jacket, he turned to me with a serious expression. Today made one thing absolutely clear, he said. My mother will never change. All we can control is how we respond to her. And I want you to know I will always choose our marriage over her manipulations. That promise spoken in the quiet of our wedding night meant more to me than any vow exchanged at the altar. Because now I knew beyond any doubt that whatever challenges lay ahead, and with Barbara there would certainly be more, we would face them as a united team. The battle lines had been drawn on our wedding day, and Nathan had planted his flag firmly on my side. Greece welcomed us with azure seas and whitewashed buildings climbing hillsides like geometric dreams. Our honeymoon provided the perfect opportunity to process what had happened and decide how to move forward. Away from family pressure and wedding stress, Nathan and I spent long evenings on our villa terrace, watching Mediterranean sunsets and having the deep conversations that would shape our married life. I keep thinking about what my aunt said, Nathan admitted one evening, swirling wine in his glass. About my mother doing this before. It makes me question so many childhood memories. I reached for his hand. What do you mean? There were several times growing up when valuable things went missing. Mum would be absolutely certain a housekeeper or gardener had taken them. Sometimes people lost their jobs over it. Then the items would mysteriously reappear. He shook his head. I always believed her. What kind of son doesn't believe his mother? A normal one who trusts his parent, I said gently. You had no reason to doubt her. But now I do, and it makes me wonder what else she's manipulated over the years. His expression grew troubled, including my relationships. Before you, I dated a woman in college that Mum despised. Andrea suddenly broke things off, saying she felt unwelcome in my family. I wonder now what Mum might have said to her. These realizations were painful for Nathan, but necessary. Each day in Greece, he seemed to unpack another layer of his mother's controlling behavior, examining it in the clear Mediterranean light. I think I've always known on some level, he confessed. After Dad died, Mum transferred all her expectations onto me. I became the repository of the Windsor legacy, the man of the house at 15. The pressure was enormous. You don't have to carry that anymore, I reminded him. We decide what our family legacy will be. By the time we left Greece, we had developed a clear plan for maintaining boundaries with Barbara. Nathan would maintain a relationship with his mother, but with new rules. No unannounced visits, no financial gifts, limited holidays together, always in public settings or with other family present. And most importantly, a zero-tolerance policy for any disrespect toward me. Returning home, we found our apartment filled with wedding gifts. Writing thank you notes became a multi-day project, with Nathan and I taking turns reading cards aloud and recording who gave what. Many notes contained subtle or direct references to the wedding drama. You handled a difficult situation with incredible grace, wrote my former college roommate. Barbara Windsor met her match in you, commented Nathan's cousin Tyler. A week after our return, the first attempt at reconciliation came from Barbara. A large flower arrangement delivered to our apartment with a card reading, "To the newlyweds. Let's put the unfortunate misunderstanding behind us. Lunch next Sunday, love Mother Windsor." No actual apology, no acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just a breezy reference to a misunderstanding and an expectation that we'd simply move on. Nathan called her immediately. I could hear only his side of the conversation, but his firm tone told me he was standing his ground. Mom, what happened at our wedding wasn't a misunderstanding. You publicly accused Audrey of theft with no evidence. No, I'm not exaggerating. The necklace was in your possession the entire time. If you want a relationship with us going forward, it starts with a genuine apology to Audrey. No, not just, I'm sorry if you felt hurt. A real acknowledgement of what you did and why it was wrong. I understand you're upset, but these are my terms. We can talk again when you're ready to take responsibility. He hung up looking drained but resolute. That went about as well as expected. She's furious that I'm choosing you over family, as she puts it. You're not choosing me over family, I pointed out. You're choosing our family, you and me, over her control. My own family provided a stark contrast to Barbara's manipulations. My parents called regularly, but respected our space as newlyweds. When they visited for dinner, they brought a homemade casserole and asked genuine questions about our honeymoon, listening attentively to our stories without making the conversation about themselves. As fall approached, we faced our first holiday season as a married couple. Thanksgiving loomed as the first major family gathering since the wedding. My parents had invited us to spend it with them in Pennsylvania, which would mean not seeing Barbara for the holiday. She'll see it as another rejection, Nathan worried. We could invite her to join us at my parents', I suggested, surprising myself with the offer. Nathan looked skeptical. Are you sure? After everything she did, I'm not saying it would be comfortable, I admitted, but it might be a controlled environment for her to start making amends. My family would be there as a buffer. We extended the invitation, but Barbara declined, citing a previous commitment with friends. I suspected she couldn't bear the thought of being a guest in my family's modest home without the control she was accustomed to. Instead, Nathan called her the morning of Thanksgiving. Their conversation was brief but civil, a small step perhaps, but movement in the right direction. December brought another challenge when Barbara sent extravagant Christmas gifts, far more expensive than what we had given her. The old Nathan might have accepted them to keep peace, but now he recognized the manipulation tactic. The gifts are beautiful, he told her on the phone. But we agreed no financial exchanges for now. We'd prefer to rebuild our relationship without gifts clouding the issue. Barbara was predictably offended, but Nathan held firm. We sent her a simple photo album of wedding pictures, carefully selected, to exclude any hint of the dramatic interruption, with a handwritten note expressing hope for healing in the new year. The breakthrough finally came in late January, nearly 3 months after our wedding. Barbara called and asked to meet us at a neutral location, a restaurant halfway between our apartment and her home. Nathan was cautiously optimistic, but I prepared myself for another non-apology or attempt to rewrite history. When we arrived, Barbara was already seated, looking uncharacteristically nervous. She had aged somehow in the months since the wedding, the lines around her mouth more pronounced, her usual perfect appearance slightly diminished. Thank you for coming, she began stiffly after we ordered drinks. This isn't easy for me. Nathan and I remained silent, waiting. Barbara took a deep breath. I've been seeing a therapist, she announced as though confessing a shameful secret. After the incident at your wedding, Tyler and Margaret both suggested I might benefit from professional help. I was insulted at first, but then... She paused, twisting her napkin. I realized I didn't like the person I saw in that barn, the person who would accuse her son's bride of theft in front of everyone. I exchanged a surprised glance with Nathan. This was already more self-awareness than I'd expected. My therapist has helped me understand some patterns in my behavior, Barbara continued. After Robert, your father, died, I transferred all my fears and expectations onto you, Nathan. I couldn't bear the thought of losing you too, so I tried to control everything about your life, including who you married. She turned to me then. Audrey, what I did at your wedding was unforgivable. I knew the necklace wasn't really stolen. I think I created the whole scenario to sabotage your day because I felt threatened by your relationship with Nathan. I was wrong, and I am truly sorry. The apology was so unexpected, so seemingly genuine, that for a moment I couldn't respond. Nathan reached for my hand under the table, giving it a supportive squeeze. Thank you for saying that, Barbara, I finally managed. It means a lot to hear you acknowledge what happened. I don't expect immediate forgiveness, she added. I know I've damaged our relationship perhaps irreparably, but I'm hoping we might start again with clear boundaries and expectations. I want to be part of your lives, but I understand that will be on your terms, not mine. Over dinner, we established a tentative path forward. Barbara would continue her therapy. We would begin with short public meetings like this one. Trust would be rebuilt slowly with consistent, respectful behavior. If Barbara reverted to manipulation or control tactics, we would step back again. As we left the restaurant, Barbara hugged me awkwardly, our first genuine physical contact since the wedding. "I'm trying," she whispered. "I really am." "That's all we ask," I replied honestly. On our first anniversary, Nathan and I returned to the barn venue for a private dinner arranged by the owners, who had been horrified by Barbara's behavior and wanted us to have a positive memory of their space. Sitting at a table where our wedding cake had been, we reflected on the tumultuous year. If someone had told me during our ceremony that your mother's outburst would ultimately strengthen our marriage, I'd never have believed them, I said. But in a strange way, it did. Nathan nodded. We started our marriage by facing one of the worst things that could happen and coming through it together. Everything else seems manageable by comparison. Barbara's progress had been slow but steady. She still occasionally tested boundaries, but now caught herself more quickly. The controlling comments about our life choices had decreased significantly. She had even developed a cordial relationship with my parents, joining us for a successful holiday dinner without any dramatic incidents. Most importantly, Nathan had grown tremendously in his ability to prioritize our marriage while maintaining a healthier relationship with his mother. The guilt that had previously driven his responses to her demands had been replaced by a clear-eyed assessment of what was reasonable and what wasn't. As for me, the woman who had stood humiliated in her wedding dress had discovered a strength and clarity she didn't know she possessed. I had learned that standing firm in the face of someone else's inappropriate behavior wasn't unkind. It was necessary for healthy relationships. "You know what I've realized," I told Nathan as we shared dessert. "That moment when your mother accused me in front of everyone was horrible, but my response to it defined me more than her accusation ever could. You were magnificent," he said simply. "I'll never forget how you handled yourself with such dignity. The journey wasn't over, of course. Barbara would likely always have controlling tendencies. Family gatherings would probably never be completely tension-free. But we had established that our marriage was a fortress that could withstand external attacks, even from those closest to us. In choosing to respond to humiliation with dignity rather than escalation, in establishing boundaries without cutting ties completely, and in supporting each other unwaveringly, Nathan and I had created something powerful and lasting. Not despite Barbara's wedding day accusation, but because of how we faced it together. Have you ever had to stand your ground against someone who tried to humiliate you publicly? How did you respond? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that. Standing up for yourself with dignity is always the right choice. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes our most painful moments become the foundation of our greatest strength.